and defend you. May God always shield you from shame. May you come to be in Yisrael's shining name. May you be like Ruth and like Esther. May you be deserving of praise. Strengthen them, O Lord, and keep them from the stranger's ways. May God bless you and grant you long lives. May the Lord fulfill our Sabbath prayer for you. May God protect you and stay by your side. May the Lord fulfill our Sabbath prayer for you. May the Lord protect and defend you. May God preserve you from pain. Favor them, O Lord, with happiness and peace. Oh, hear our Sabbath prayer. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone out there. It's very late here. I'm very tired. This is why those of you watching from UK, from Central Europe, from Israel, let me know that you're watching so I have an excuse to do this on our time instead of this late at night. I love you all in the States. I love you so very much. Thank you for gathering and being here. And yes, as long as you are there gathering together, I will keep on doing this as well. A little bit more plaintive than earlier in the week I'd intended on beginning the service. I know that I'm not the only one out there who spent almost my entire life hearing the voice of Chaim Topol. The first time I heard that was actually on 8-track, if that gives everyone an idea of how long ago that was. For any of you Zoomers or millennials out there, that's okay. Listen, there's a truth, and part of the truth is we've had things that have caused us to go into mourning this week. Some of us much more than others, as some of you have lost people dear to you. There are things going on in the world that are difficult. Some of us had a bad experience at the checkout counter tonight. I'm not being absurd. I'm trying to say that we are all carrying burdens with us right now that are the opposite of what the Sabbath is. And so part of what we do right now is, remind us every week of this, is to understand we're not ready for Shabbat. We need to go through a process to get there, and that process is a traditional one. 6 psalms, one for each day of the week before we get to Shabbat, and then 2 songs, a double portion, because we need that desperately. So I invite you to grab whatever prayer book you have out there, find Kabbalat Shabbat. Prayer books are all very similar, and we're going to start with Lachuna Ranana. I am using, and I'll call out the pagination from the British Reform Prayer Book. It's online available. The link should be below the streaming right now. We start on 111 with Lachuna Ranana, a deep breath, if I remember, before each psalm. And let's try to find that space of Shabbat together. Let's kind of, this is a participation sport, so that means you sing along, you mouth along. This isn't a concert, otherwise I wouldn't do it. This is us praying together, those of us who don't have a brick and mortar synagogue that we can get to right now. So let's make this our sacred space together. And because I'm a long way away from a lot of you, I need to hear you singing really loudly to know that you're out there. Page 111, Lechuna Ranana. L'Adonai, Lechu Neranna, L'Adonai, Nariel Tzur Yishenu, Nariel Tzur אישנו נקדמה פניו בתודה בזמירות נריאנו נקדמה פניו בתודה בזמירות נריאנו כי אל גדול אדוני ומלך גדול לכל אלוהים כי אל גדול אדוני ומלך גדול לכל אלוהים השמן מקרי הארץ מטופת הרים לו אשר לא יאמר הוא עשהו ובשת ידיו יצרו ונשק ונכרע נבחר לפני אדוני עושנו כי הוא אלוהינו ואנחנו עמד טוב צאן ידו היו עם קולו תשמעו 112 שירו לאדוני שיר חדש שירו לאדוני כל הארץ שירו לאדוני שיר חדש שירו לאדוני כל הארץ שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו שירו לאדוני שיר חדש שירו לאדוני כל הארץ שירו לאדוני שיר חדש שירו לאדוני כל הארץ שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו סבא במקומו בכל העמים בנפלאותיו כי גדול ישמחו השמיים ישמחו השמיים ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ ישמחו השמיים ישמחו השמיים ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ יירם הים יירם הים יירם הים ומלואו יירם הים יירם הים יירם הים ומלואו ישמחו שמיים ותגל הארץ יירם הים ומלואו יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו אז נקרא לצא יער לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ לשפוט ובצדק ועמים באמונתו אדוני מלך תרגל הארץ ישמועים רבים הנופל סביביו צדק משפט נכון כיסו אש לפניו טבע ונצב יבצריו שכון כל הארץ sarua la tzadi
Osarua Latzadik Ul Yishrele Simcha Simchu Tzadikim Badonai Badonai Vehodu Lezecher Kodsho Lezecher Kodsho Osarua Latzadik Uyishrelev Simcha Osarua Latzadik Uyishrelev Simcha. Page 116. Another deep breath to Wednesday. Mizmor Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash Ki neflot asa Hoshia lo yamino Uzroa kodsho Hodia Adonai Yeshuato Le'ene hagoyim Gilat tzidkato Zachar chazdo Ve'emunato Levet Yisrael Levet Yisrael Rauch olaf ze'aretz Et Yeshuat Eloheinu Ariu l'Adonai Kol ha'aretz Pitzchu v'ranenu v'zamru Zamru l'Adonai Bechino Bechino v'kol zimra B'chatzot zerot V'kol shofar Hariu lifnei Hamelech Adonai Yam hayam Umlo Lifnei Adonai Kivo lishpot haaretz Yishpot tevel b'tzedek Ve'amim b'mei sharim Adonai melech yigzu hamim Yevgiv v'notunot haaretz L'tzion v'gadol Ramu kol amim Yerishmecha gadol v'nora Kadoshu Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu romemu, romemu, Adonai, romemu, romemu, Adonai, Eloheinu romemu, romemu, Adonai, romemu, romemu, Adonai, Eloheinu romemu, romemu, Adonai, romemu, romemu, Adonai, Eloheinu romemu, romemu, Adonai. Page 119. The thing is, I get to blame the hour on losing my place over and over again. I'm still somewhat awake, though. Havul Adonai bneni, Havul Adonai, Kavod va'oz, Yainai, Havul Adonai, Kevod shemo ishtagu, L'Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Al ma'im rabim, Kol Adonai, Ba'koach, Yainai, Kol Adonai be'yada, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vayishber Adonai et hazehavano, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon, Sirion, kemoven re'emim, Yainai, Kol Adonai, Chotzev la'avodesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol ayalot, Vayechesov, Yarot, ובחלו כולו אומר כבוד יעיני אדוני למה בול ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום. לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה. פני שבת נקבלה, שמו וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשמו תפארת בלי תילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. If you're at home you must bang on something right now. Create rhythm all across the world. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם. נסוך סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך ימלוכה קומיצאי, מתוך הפך רב לקשב בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלי חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך מעל יד בן ישי, בית הלך מקורבן נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ינננה 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 ינננה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינננה ינננה, פני שבת נקבלה. ידיי לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו אני עמי, ונבנתה עיר עתילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, והיו למשוסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך. יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתנה כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי. על ידי שבין פצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, בוא בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה, פני שבת נקבלה. יננה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, יננה,
pnei Shabbat nekabela. And now it's Shabbat. A new melody if you weren't here at the last service. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat tov lehodot LaAdonai usameh leshimcha elyon lehagid baboker chasdecha ve'emunatecha בלילות ליאסוף עלינה ולהיגיון בחינו כי שימתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן. Let's nigun that once through to get that melody in. Kind of works, I think, if I say so myself. Yai, nai, nai. Nine, 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 yeah, nine, 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 yeah, nine, 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 yeah, nine, 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 yeah, nine, 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 nine. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat tov lehodot LaAdonai usameh leshimcha elyon lehagid בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות ליאסוף עלינה ובליגי וחינו כי שימתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן כי שימתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן שימתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן. צדיק התמר יפרח כארז בלבנון ישגה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינובון בשיבה דשנים ורעננים יהיו להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי צורי ולא הבלת בו. אדוני מלך גאות לבש לבש אדוני הוסיט הזר אף תיקון תבת בתימות נכון כיסך מאז מעולם אתה נכון כיסך מאז מעולם אתה נשיאו נערות אדוני נשיאו נערות קולם יישאו נערות אוחיין מקולות מים רבים אדירים משפרי ים
Adim Amarom Adonai Edotecha Ne'emnu Me'od Levetecha Nava Kodesh Adonai, Adonai, Adonai leorech yamin. Deep breath. We are on page 127, about to step into our Vit Shabbat. Up until this point, it's all been warmed up so that we can be in this point together. Now, I don't have a minyan in this room. A Rebbitzin, a cat, and a rabbi doesn't quite a minyan make. I know that together we've got a minyan out there, probably. I can't see the numbers right now. I know there's a lot of you gathered in certain rooms. But that being said, we're going to do this symbolically, acknowledging how important this is. Because up to this point, the warm-up brings us to the point where the symbol is we're standing together, no matter where we are in the world, ready to enter this place. The place is the Shema. The Shema is not a prayer, it's a declaration that we're all part of the same something. So we don't enter this space without dedicating a part of ourselves to being in some sort of togetherness. And so I want us to take that deep breath, create that intentionality. I'll read this in English instead of during the Baruch in Hebrew. But I want us to look left and right proverbially and see all of us around the world that are gathered in this space together and acknowledge how important it is in a world where it's hard to be together in any way. We're constantly tearing ourselves apart. This is our symbol of what it means to come back together. Bless the eternal God whom we are called to bless. Blessed is the living God whom we are called to bless forever and ever. Page 128. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv aravim bechokma poteach sharim ובתבונה משני עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור המעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Ha'aravim. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח ונעלוז בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך וחוקותיך לעולם ועין, לעולם ועין. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו והם כיומם ולילה. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו והם כיומם ולילה. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו והם כיומם ולילה. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ובהם כיומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב את עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם למזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והם שמות מצוותי שאנוכי מצווך ישמעו לכם כי מהשמיים על הארץ ויאמר אדוני אומר שלמות למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואין זולתו ואנחנו ישראל עמו הסגדולות על כן החקה ונפלאות עד אין מספר ורוב עיניו כבודתיו שבחו והודו לשמחו ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובן מרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלי מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלי מלכותך אדוני אלוהינו ראו בניך על הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. בני מקיף אדוני את יעקב, ולמי חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. Source of our life and our sovereign, cause us to lie down in peace and rise again to enjoy life. Spread over us the covering of your peace and guide us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. And be a shield about us, turning away every enemy, disease, violence, hunger, and sorrow. Remove the temptation that awaits us and the guilt that lies behind us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are a God who guards and protects us, a ruler of mercy and compassion. Guard us when we go out and when we come in, to enjoy life and peace both now and forever, and spread over us the shelter of your peace. Blessed are you, eternal, spreading the shelter of peace over us, over your people Israel, and over all the world. Baruch ata Adonai, הפורס כת שלום עלינו, ועל ישראל, ועל כל העולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. יעני ביני ובין בני ישראל אות היא לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי nefesh. Amidah begins on 140. Keep on davening. If I start playing music before you are done, just pause and keep davening. Yananai, yanai. Nai, nai, nanai, nai. Na 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 nine 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 ya na na nine 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 nine. Everything that has breath, let us find some way to give praise. Kol ha-neshama te hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol ha-neshama te hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, ya na 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 na, hallelujah, hallelujah. I had intended on singing Shalom Rav, but I needed to transpose the piano, and I have to say, my brain is so foggy right now, I could not figure out how to do it, even though I've had this piano for 20 years. So what's going to come out of my mouth for a mini drasha right now is going to be really interesting. So of course I'm going to talk about an article about sports. Now, come on, you sports fans, you know that this is going to not be what you think it is. And for those of you who hate sports, take a deep breath, because there's going to be enough similarities that you're going to be fine, okay? We'll get through this together. But it was an article many years ago, and it was really around the time that free agency was taking hold in many sports. Again, sorry, sports fans, it's really empowering. It was the ability for players to be able to move around to different teams and get paid. And, you know, it helped a lot of people who weren't getting paid before. So that's pretty cool stuff. And anyway, this article was decrying the advent of free agency, because it meant that you didn't really recognize from year to year the people on your favorite team. And the point they made at the end was supposed to be completely sarcastic and to show us how silly we are. It said, at the end of the day, really what we're doing is we're rooting for the uniform or the team colors. Now, that's kind of interesting, because those of you who know me know that my favorite sports team went to the Super Bowl this year. And of course, we went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. And of course, I've got my team colors here, and here's my little, flag here, and that sort of thing. And the reason that's important is because there were less than 10 players who are on the team this year who were on that team years ago. And so that question is, well, what are we rooting for then? It's a different head coach, it's a different quarterback. What in the world are we rooting for? And the answer is actually much more profound than the sarcastic article that was being given, because for a very long time in human history, we've rooted for a standard. I mean, if you go back, you want to see a really interesting way that that's portrayed. Watch Bruno Heller's Rome. Don't watch it if you don't like very heavy rated R things, but when the flag of the Roman legion is lost, the thought of losing the standard, the banner, even though the soldiers might have been different, even though that would change in and out, even leadership of that band could change, but the loss of the standard was enough to cause extraordinary measures to be taken. The reality is we do root for a flag, and the reason is actually really cool, because it's a shortcut into everything that brought us to that moment. Now, what I mean by shortcut is I remember when I started watching American football, I was 2 years old. My brother Jim was 5. He was a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I still love you anyway, Jim. And at the time, I liked the San Diego Chargers because they had lightning on their helmets, because that's what 2-year-olds really like. It wasn't until I was in the 3rd grade that I started rooting for the Eagles. So I know, what a joiner, huh? Well, that feeling of that time in my life, which was a time of change, even at 2, there were a lot of upheaval in my family at the time. Those are powerful memories. Some of my earliest memories with my brother. And then later on with my dad. My dad and I love my dad dearly. My dad is one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. I have such profound respect for him. We haven't always seen eye to eye in a lot of stuff. And if you have a dad, then, you have been fortunate enough to know that you're not going to see eye to eye with them as well. But you know what? We spend a lot of time watching football. And so, as absurd as that seems, for those of you who every time I mention something like American football, you roll your eyes, okay, I get it. And I do understand that. But when I put on a uniform, when I put on the silly jersey, what I'm actually doing is tying into every bit of emotion that I have from the age 2. I'm 50 now, so that's 49 years of emotion that are carried into that. And the uniform's the shortcut. Now, this is a sermon, so what does this have to do with Torah? Well, the term that we use for that in biblical Hebrew is that standard, that flag, that standard. The word is an oat. Now, not oat as in the porridge that we ate to make our stomach feel better, but an oat as in modern Hebrew, a letter. So aleph, vav, tav, an oat. Okay, so when we see an oat, it means something special. And we sang tonight a passage from Parshat Ki Tisa, our Parsha. Let me give you a hint. Yai nai nai beini uvein b'nei Yisrael ot hile olam. Between me and between the house of Israel, it shall be an oat for all eternity. Now we translate that as it shall be a sign. Shabbat should be a sign. Now it's really interesting to do because we've got the great technology. Back when I was, even 15 years ago when I was starting rabbinicals, was it 15? Oh, wow, 17 years ago now when I was starting rabbinical. I'm feeling a little bit old right now. We didn't have access to things like Sefaria, which if you don't know what it is, go check it out, sefaria.org. I can actually type in Aleph Vav Tav and I can find every incidence of oat throughout all of Jewish history, starting in the Torah and then moving up through Midrashim, through Talmud, etc. And there are 91 incidents in the Tanakh. And if you start looking through in the Torah, you start figuring out what an oat is. And here are the things that are an oat. One, the Sabbath is an oat. Okay, that's what we've gotten to Ki Tisa. Remembering that the Eternal brought us out of Egypt is an oat. The plagues and the hardening of Pharaoh's heart is an oat. Tefillin are an oat, or at least they're the external symbol of the law that we are to have so near to us that it is like a sign upon our hands and before our eyes, meaning all of our strength, we do that within the ethical and moral law of our tradition, and we keep that constantly focused, because that's really hard to do. We have an external symbol to do that. And so every time we see that oat, what else? Another famous oat in the Torah is all of our chagim. A chag is an oat, is a sign, a banner, a special thing. And what they actually are, and there's a clue in the book of Numbers. It's fascinating. We get to a little bit later on. It says that everyone is going to camp beneath their flag. Okay, the tribal banner. The tribal banners are basically the astrological signs if you want to have some fun with how history actually develops and how interesting that can be. But it's the way that it's used is interesting in that there are two words that are used for flag. There's the traditional word that we use for flag in Hebrew, and then added behind that is oat. And that's not usually translated. And basically we say, you shall stay under that banner to point you to or remind you of your ancestors. And that's exactly what I'm saying about the uniforms. The purpose of the oat is the shortcut into, so if I'm from the tribe of Dan, that is to remind me of all the tribal tales, of all the relationships, of all the stories that I've heard, the family binds, the obligations that I have. I look at that banner of the tribe of Dan, and I remember that. If I'm the tribe of Judah, that's a big lion there, right? Just like Leo, I know, sorry. This stuff all comes from a ball of reality that we pop out of, and our evolution is much more interesting. But here's the point. Why in the world is Shabbat then an oat? Why do we sing Oti Leolam? Why do we sing that line with such passion? And here's the hard thing. The hard thing is, a couple hundred years ago, if you're Jewish, you did Shabbat because it was the full expectation of the community. You didn't have to sell Shabbat. In the year 2023, I have to sell Shabbat. Most of us aren't participating in Shabbat. Most of us are not, in the most basic way, unplugging ourselves from the things that are causing us stress for 25 hours. It should be the easiest sell on the face of this planet. But it's not. It's one of those things that it comes by, and now all of a sudden a rabbi here is talking about Shabbat, and that means that we get to roll our eyes and say, here we go again. Except for here's the reality of it again. We started this service with the memory, may his memory be for a blessing, as we lost this week, Chaim Topol. and I played music that was a shortcut to that memory. But the bigger problem is what happens when we lose someone close to us. Well, one of the most difficult moments I've had as a rabbi is people coming up to me in that moment saying, "Rabbi, what do I do?" And the answer to the question is one I can't give in a congregation, and that's if you have to ask the question, then there's nothing I can say to help you out. And why is that? It's because you need an oat. In order to actually get into that place where you can use any of this, any of this, any of this, any of the prayer book, any of that, only helps if you have made it into an oat, if you have created that. Shabbat is not an oat by itself. We, with our efforts, make it into that. And how do we do that? The exact same way that I can put on my silly Philadelphia Eagles hat and it means something. Maybe way too much. Something passionate. Why? Because from the time I was 2 years old, I have given energy to it, engaged in it, gone through the hard years of the losses, to be a true Philadelphia Eagles fan, to boo and still cheer all at the same time. And the only way that Shabbos has any meaning as we roll our eyes and say, why do I have to do that, is by making it into an oat. Because it's not necessarily useful when life is going fine and you just go to shul. Shabbat is kind of silly at that point because we'd rather be out doing something else. I acknowledge it. But it becomes an oat when we need it. When, God forbid, we've lost someone and we go to that service, guess what we need at that point? We don't need Shabbat. We need Ot Hi Leolam. We need the eternal sign. We need the shortcut at that moment. We need to step into that place and have Shabbat be a blanket over us and to be tissues that are drying our tears and to be the arms of the eternal that wrap around us, like Masechet Rosh Hashanah suggests with our talis, that when we put this on, we are wrapped by the arms of the eternal. It doesn't happen by wearing it once. It happens by wearing it over and over again. And the moment that we need it, it becomes an oat. The moment that we need our tradition, it becomes an oat only if we have put something into it ourselves. And so in my everlasting attempt to say our tradition is not a silly thing from the past made by people who have no relevance today, we are going to need that oat at some point. And so we need to start creating those relationships. And the relationships are with our music, with the texts. If we're having a hard time with Hebrew, there are ways through the work to get better at it. And yeah, for some of us, it takes a lot longer. And I get it. Got the dyslexia myself here, folks. Especially with Hebrew, it kicks off. We have to work really hard. But guess what? In those moments of trouble, when I don't know what else to do but open a song, the work that I've done to create that oat is not that different, strangely enough, of putting on that uniform. It's not just the moment that I feel, but it's everything that's built into it. Everyone who's touched that, everyone who I've sat and had a l'chaim with over those years is with me in that moment. And if that's why Shabbat, according to Parshat Ki Tisa, is something that's supposed to be an eternal sign between us and the eternal, if we can, when we most need it, step into that place where we are embraced by dozens of years of arms around us from every one of those memories, then it makes Shabbat pretty worthwhile and a shortcut to exactly what we need in that moment. Shabbat Shalom. With that, we are at Aleinu. That is page 310 in the Siddur that I am using, or whatever page. See, 586 if you're using the American Reformed Siddur. There are some pages that you always memorize. Please rise for Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתקן ולרצה בראשית, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, מגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ככתוב בתורת אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. we take a moment now to step into a place of memory. Again, without a minyan present in this room, I won't go through and say out loud the mourner's Kaddish. Obviously, if you are in a room with a minyan, please do so. Please have someone lead or say it all together, Kaddish for you. I will be here and create that space for us to do that. And as we are all over the world, and I do believe in the butterfly effect, I do believe that we move our lips and something profound happens on the other side of the world, which is why I think that we have to move our lips as we pray and we say these things. If you are even by yourself and there's someone you are in mourning for, I'd like to take a moment now and have you call those names out loud. And then, of course, if we remember Chaim Topol, and we think of the victims of terror this week in Israel. Zichronam Livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing. Please rise if you are saying Kaddish. We are on page 316 in the Siddur that I am using as we say together. Say shalom bimromav, huya say shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, amen. Well, I think we should end the service with the Yigdal, page 318, with the melody that the Rebbitzin assures me will bring about Mashiach. If you have not seen my 3 classes on Mashiach, after Shabbos, look it all up and become a member of Beit Virtuali, and you can get all of that archive. We had some fascinating discussions, and Yigdal has a little bit to do with Mashiach, so let's go ahead and grab that, and if you are wondering where I'm coming from, it might be worth looking through those classes there. Page 318. Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtabach nimsa ve'en etel metziuto echad ve'en yechid keyichudo nelam v'gam en sof le'achduto en lo demut haguf ve'eno guf lo naroch elav kedushato Kadmon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit lereishito hino adon olam lechol notzar yoreh gedulato ulmalchuto shefa nevuato neta noel anshe segulato v'tifarto lo kam b'Yisrael kemo she'od navi umabitel temunato Torah temet natan le'amoel al yad nevi'o ne'eman beto lo yachal livael ve'lo yamir dato le'olamim lazulato צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמותו, גומל לאיש חסיד כמפעלו, נותן לראשי רע כרישתו, נשלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפתור מחכה קץ ישועתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך Ad Shem Tehilato. If you are still around and if you are doing Kiddush with me, we are on page 452. Va'erev va'yivoker Yom HaShishi. Please rise. Va'echol Hashemayim va'aretz v'chol tzava'am. Va'echal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melakto asher asa. Va'yishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melakto asher asa. Va'yevarch Elohim et yom hashvi'i va'yikedesh oto. Ki vo shevat mikol melakto asher bara Elohim la'asot.
Savi Chavrai.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'evratzon hinchelanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrayeh kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch ata Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. L'chaim. And those of you who are still here, I would love to see you just let me know in chat that you are still here. Service is over, so it's only, I don't know, is that actually breaking Shabbat? It's putting two symbols next to each other, but if you're typing it out, it might just be, blindly. All right, we're not going to go there. We are doing a little bit of Farbringen. Dear friends, thank you for being here. Obviously, I was sound asleep at the very beginning of the service and had no idea where I was. Thank you for being with me as I slowly woke up as we got into Arvit. But isn't that how it is? Life is real. We do what we can. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being a part of Beit Virtuali. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shechol niyeh b'dvaro l'chaim l'chaim. With that, I say Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next time.